The last topic that was a frequent source of missed questions was inflation. And basically anything to do with the causes of inflation or what particular kinds of inflation could do. So what we're going to do is just review this slide. This was a slide from the second week of Unit 2. I believe it was Wednesday or Thursday that we went over the causes of inflation from the demand side and the supply side. So first of all, I want to review this supply side inflation. And remember, in next week, we're going to start calling these aggregate demand and aggregate supply. So these are really like an oversimplified model, and we're going to start using AD and AS graphs instead. But the picture is basically the same, and that is that one cause of inflation or one cause of increased price levels, you can see prices are going up here, is if supply shifts to the left. Why would supply shift to the left? Well, there are a number of reasons, but the main reason why supply shifts to the left is because of an increase in resource prices. So if the price of gas goes up, if the price of steel goes up, the price of water goes up, any of those things, any major resources, if they become more expensive, are going to cause a shift to the left in supply for all sorts of goods and services. And that gets referred to as a supply shock, or sometimes specifically as a negative supply shock. A positive supply shock would be like gas prices, a couple of months ago when they just dropped dramatically, which can also have destabilizing effects. But a negative supply shock is when supply shifts to the left. It also gets called cost push inflation because it involves costs, as I just said, the cost of resources. And costs are pushing the inflation because resources are becoming more expensive, and therefore firms are pushing up their prices in response to the fact that they're having to pay more for resources. This kind of inflation also gets called stagflation. It's not printed on here, right? But we did talk about this in class, that stagflation is a combination of a recession and inflation. Stag comes from the word stagnation, economic stagnation, and this term started coming into popular use in the 1970s during the oil crisis. So what happens is we don't just have an increase in prices, but we also have a decrease in output. And that's what stagflation is. Stagflation is generally caused by cost push inflation. So the other kind of inflation and the other cause of inflation is demand side inflation. And mild demand side inflation is usually not a really big concern. It means that people are spending more. We frequently say that there's too much money in circulation, or there's too much money chasing too few goods. So people have money and they want to spend it, but there's not really enough to spend it on, so it's sort of like an auction, right? Everybody's bidding up the prices of things. So that will cause an increase in prices, as you can see here, right? Prices will go up. But it also tends to stimulate more output because producers are like, wow, people are spending money, I should produce more stuff. So it's not entirely bad to have demand side or demand pull inflation. And it's demand pull because buyers are pulling up the prices by offering more money. But demand side inflation can get really bad too, and especially when the government, like the government of Zimbabwe, starts printing lots of money. So if there's really too much money, okay, a lot of money, like I said, like in Zimbabwe, okay, there's just too much money in circulation. That money doesn't really mean anything, right? And people are buying lots of stuff and prices are going up. And people look around them and they say, wow, prices are going up. I better buy now before prices get any higher. And so people kind of go on a spending spree, right? And they buy more stuff. And then they look around and they say, oh my gosh, prices are going up again. I better buy more stuff, right? And that can lead to what we call hyperinflation, which is basically one of the things that broke down German society in the 19-teens. It's affected many other countries in Zimbabwe today. Another term for that is this relatively mild-sounding term, inflationary expectations. And when you have hyperinflation or demand-side inflation that's spinning out of control, or you have inflationary expectations, you not only end up with really high price levels and things like 1,000% inflation, right? But you also end up breaking down your economic system to the point where people are going to lose jobs, where those costs associated with inflation, like menu costs and transaction costs, people can't function anymore. You're not going to run a business because you don't even know what to charge, because when whatever you pay for your resources is going to be so much more expensive tomorrow. You don't know what to set your prices at. You don't know what to pay your workers, so you end up laying off your workers. So this can also, even though the graph shows just prices going up, this can also cause unemployment. And anytime you see a question that deals with both inflation and unemployment, it's going to be either stagflation or it's going to be inflationary expectations. You will not see a question that offers both of those as options, because they would both be potentially right answers. So that would not be fair. So that's a quick review of both stagflation and inflationary expectations, which again were very frequently missed questions on the test.